Sunday, NFL Week 4 is upon us. Going to talk about the Week 4 NFL picks against the spread. I did a video a few nights ago talking about the Week 4 picks, but since then, things have changed. Injuries have happened. There's lots to discuss. So, going to get to these Week 4 picks in a second. Before I do, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit walterfootball.com for tons of content. We have everything for the NFL. We have 2026 and 2027 NFL mock drafts. We have detailed NFL picks against the spread, plus college football picks against the spread. We have NFL power rankings. We grade every signing. We grade every trade. We have fantasy football weekly rankings. It's all at walterfootball.com, and it's all free. So come check us out. All right. The first game today, it's going to be a long day because it's our first of our international games. I guess the first Europe game. This one's in Ireland. Vikings at the Steelers. I will be boycotting this game. Not going to watch it live. I just really hate these international games that start at 9:30. It's a joke. It's 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. It's just way too early to get up for that. But all right. So Vikings are -2.5. I like the Vikings here. Now, I did like them earlier, much more earlier in the week. I think they're the better team. And generally, when you get to Thursday games or international games, the team that's better is just going to have such a big advantage because the inferior team doesn't have enough time to game plan for them. But a couple things have changed since. One, Andrew Van Ginkel is out for the Vikings. He's one of their best defensive players. And two, I heard this, tidbit from Aaron Rodgers saying that he was complaining about the Steelers arriving late. Rodgers has not done well overseas. However, Steelers have been healthier recently. They got they got their first round pick, Derek Harmon, back from injury. Deshaun Elliott's back. So while Pittsburgh's healthy, they're also maybe motivated by this game because this is the Rooney family, and I heard a statement saying how important this was for their family legacy and whatnot. So, hearing that, I'm not like too enthusiastic by the Vikings. I like them a little bit here. Might bet 1 or 2 units on them, but you can check Sunday morning 6:20 a.m. Or so for my final thoughts, which I'll post ahead of time. So not like I said, I'm not getting up for this one. Eagles of the Buccaneers. I'm hearing some weather stuff here. It might be 100 degrees on the field, so that might be pretty difficult. It's always tough to play in a very hot and humid environment like that. As long as the team is a good team. You had the Dolphins having a home game earlier this year against the Patriots, which they didn't cover. That's because they stink. The Buccaneers are actually a good team, but they are a little banged up. They're missing 2 offensive linemen. They were missing 3 last week, but Tristan Wirfs is coming back. Chris Godwin's coming back, just in time for Mike Evans, although I think that's a huge mistake. I actually think Godwin's going to re-injure himself. I hope I'm wrong, but it might be a Najee Harris situation. Regardless, the Eagles are the healthier team. They're the better team, and the Sharps bet there's through 3. So moving from 3 to 3.5 is a sign of strength. It just means that the sportsbooks are not afraid that the Sharps are going to come in and take Tampa. So I like the Eagles here, but I'm not going to bet it. I like many more games on the slate a lot more. One such game, although not much more, it's a little bit more, is Saints of the Bills. This line is 14.5. Don't be afraid of this being a big line. Like sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll be like, "Oh, do you like the Bills or whatever this week?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Well, isn't the line too high?" Well, that's not true. The reason why this line's high is because the Bills are one of the best teams in the league. The Saints are one of the worst teams in the league. And if you look back at history, the past 15 years, the favorites of 14.5 or more in the first 5 weeks of the season are 10-3 against the spread. It's a small sample size, but it just goes to show that you can bet these teams. And I will be betting Buffalo. And it's not going to be a big amount because Buffalo has some injuries. Matt Milano, their best linebacker, he's really the heart and soul of that defense. He's out. Ed Oliver, their best defensive tackle, is out, and Spencer Brown, one of their tackles, might be out as well. He barely practiced this week. So the Bills are not going to be full strength. And, if you're laying a lot of points, which, again, is not very scary to do, but if you're laying a lot of points, you want that team to be healthy, and the Bills are not. And we saw the Dolphins cover on Thursday night. Maybe the Saints do the same. But I do think the Bills are just going to cover. They're just a lot better than the Saints. Spencer Rattler's a disaster, and this might be the straw that broke the camel's back as far as him being a starter is concerned. He might be benched after this game. Next game is Panthers at the Falcons. Panthers at the Patriots. So going to talk about the Panthers-Falcons game actually because that was a 30-0 Carolina result. Atlanta did not show up at all to that game. And so I thought maybe the Panthers are going to be overvalued. Maybe we get a favorable line, especially because the Patriots lost the Steelers. But, that didn't happen. This line's 5.5. And it's 5.5 for a reason. The sportsbooks know that this is a big disparity. The Patriots they're not a good team, but they're pretty close to average, maybe slightly below average. They lost to the Steelers, but they outgained the Steelers by 160 yards. They played pretty well against the Dolphins. They had a 12-0 lead or something, or something close to that. I think it was 12-0 lead. They missed the 2 extra points. Then it was 15-7. Yeah. So the Patriots are better than these bottom feeder teams, and the Panthers are definitely a bottom feeder team. In week 1, they got blown out at Jacksonville. Week 2, against the Cardinals, they were down 27-3 before Arizona fell asleep at the wheel. The Patriots should be able to win this one pretty easily. And Carolina, a great fade coming off that 30-0 nonsense win, in which they had like 220 yards of offense. They were outgained by Atlanta in both yards and yards per play. Just goes to show how ridiculous of a result that was. So that definitely don't buy the hype with the Panthers. And the Panthers are banged up too. They're missing 2 offensive linemen, Tyrell McMillan and Chuba Hubbard, are dealing with calf injuries. They say they're going to play, but this is, soft tissue injuries could just knock players out of the game in a blink of an eye. So wouldn't surprise me at all if McMillan is exiting the game in like the second quarter or something, or maybe Hubbard. So the Patriots are a good play here. I also like the Falcons a little bit here. They're -2, even though the Redskins are going to be starting Jaden Daniels, or they're not going to be starting Jaden Daniels. It's going to be Marcus Mariota, and Terry McLaurin's out. So we bet the Redskins last week. We had Mariota against the Raiders, and one angle I love in the NFL is to bet backup quarterbacks on good teams versus non-elite defenses. And the Raiders obviously don't have an elite defense. They have a horrible defense. So Mariota was able to get Washington a big win. Here's the opposite. Atlanta has a top 10 defensive EPA, which, we're not used to with Atlanta, but they held the Vikings to 9 points 2 weeks ago. And don't be afraid to bet Atlanta. They lost 30-0. They looked absolutely terrible last week, but they were a complete no-show. I think you just wipe that game out of your memory. If you do that, you're looking at an Atlanta team that was nearly good enough to beat Tampa in week 1. In fact, they outgained Tampa by a wide margin, and then they went into Minnesota and won 22-9. This Falcons team's defense is really good. They have really good pieces on offense. The offensive line's solid, not great, but solid. Penix has been awful. Granted, last week he was terrible. He's gotten worse every week, but this is a matchup where he can win. Yeah, the Redskins have an average defense. Their secondary is kind of a liability. So I think that Drake London could go off. Bijan Robinson should have a good game. I like Atlanta here to win and bounce back from that 30-0. As much of a sell high as the Panthers were off that game, the Falcons are the ultimate buy low here. We get to Browns at Lions. It seems like everyone I talk to likes the Lions. Like everyone. I haven't found a single person who likes the Browns personally. Now that it just could be fluky, it's anecdotal, and I know that, but I'm on the Cleveland side. I'm not going to bet this game just because, Joe Flacco could implode here. Joe Flacco's done a decent job so far. I know he's had some turnovers, but mostly that's been on his receivers. I wouldn't count him for that. But, against this team, this defensive line from Detroit that stymied Lamar Jackson for the most part, I really worry about Flacco committing a lot of turnovers here. But the case to be made for Cleveland is that Detroit could still be a little overrated. They beat Baltimore, but Baltimore's pretty banged up, and Green Bay took it to them in week 1. They still have 2 new coordinators. They still have offensive line issues. The 2 interior guys are gone, and Taylor Decker didn't practice a single snap this week. So you're going to have a team that might be down 3 offensive linemen against Cleveland's elite defensive line. I think that's problematic. Plus, Detroit has 1 fewer day of preparation. So I think Cleveland should be able to keep this game close, it's in a low-scoring game. Stay within the number, but like I said, I'm not betting this game. I'm not betting this one either. Titans at the Texans. The Texans are favored by 7, but can they even score 7? I think that's a legitimate question. They can't block at all. CJ Stroud looks lost. He has no running game to work with. He has no receivers outside of Nico Collins. And the defense, while good, has not been elite. like they built to be, and Derek Stingley Jr. might be out in this game. So I think there's a chance that the Titans have a sort of a backdoor cover here. Even if it's like the Texans have scored 19, 10, and 9, if it's 10 or 9 in this game, that's not going to be enough. Although maybe 10, it could be 10-0 or 10-2. But I do think that the Titans are the right side, but this is not something I want to bet. Something I do want to bet, though, the Chargers -6.5 against the Giants. Jackson Dart is making his first start, and there's been some hubbub on social media where Jackson Dart posted a picture of Justin Herbert's girlfriend, and so I can't imagine the Charger players are going to take too kindly to that. And the narrative here from it's just like an edge standpoint is that the Chargers are coming off 3 divisional wins and now are playing a non-divisional game, non-conference game. Actually, this spot has actually not been that bad. I looked it up. Teams, this is dating back to 1989. Teams that are coming off 3 consecutive divisional wins and then play a non-divisional game as favorites of 6.5 or more, 18-10 against the spread. Which, look, I'm not a big trend guy. I don't really care about that. But I like the Chargers beforehand, and I just think it's kind of like proof that the spot the Chargers are in is not as dire as some people think. In fact, I think you can make the case that the Chargers are in a good spot because these West Coast team playing on the East Coast at 1 o'clock. There's been a lot of stuff about that over the years where they struggled. Mike Holmgren famously was awful in these situations, but these coaches who've come in like Sean McVay, Jim Harbaugh, who have really done well in this regard. They've kind of found like the secret sauce to get their teams to play at a high level in these games. And, lo and behold, Jim Harbaugh is 10-1 against the spread in these situations. He was 4-1 last year. Speaking of Harbaugh, he's playing against a rookie quarterback. I think that's definitely a big advantage. He was 4-0 against rookie quarterbacks last year. Granted, one of them was Spencer Rattler, but the other 3, he won twice against Bo Nix, and then once against Drake May. He covered easily in all 3 games. We get to the 4 o'clock games. We had Jaguars at the 49ers. 49ers are -3.5. I can't trust the Niners here as more than a field goal favorite, especially without Nick Bosa. That's such a big deal. Plus, Ricky Pearsall's banged up. Juwan Jennings probably not going to play again. We don't know if Brock Purdy's healthy. Kyle Shanahan said he looked good in practice, but how can you believe anything Kyle Shanahan says? He just lies all the time. So, on the other hand, I don't really trust Jacksonville either. Trevor Lawrence has been a disaster this year. According to EPA, he's been the 5th worst quarterback in the NFL, which is kind of if you're a Jaguar fan, you really have to be worried about that because they've played 2 games. 2 of their opponents have been the Panthers and the Bengals, 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL, and yet Lawrence has not produced. So that's an issue. I don't trust the Jaguars enough to bet them, but I do like them for like office pool purposes. Colts at the Rams. I like the Colts +3.5 a little bit. Not a huge fan of it because they really haven't played tough opponents. Like they did play Denver in week 2, but their other 2 opponents were Miami and Tennessee. And as stated earlier, Denver is just a team, or as I will say, sorry, Denver is a team that just tends to, get off to slow starts on the Sean Payton. So I don't really put too much stock into that week 2 win. It was a nice win, of course, of the Battle of Horses. But the Rams are on a different level. I think this is a big litmus test for the Colts. We'll see. We'll see if they live up to it. I'm interested to watch this game. I don't quite know. Maybe the Colts just lay an egg here and the Rams win easily, but I see the Colts also pulling the upset. So this is not a game I'm betting. Bears at the Raiders. This line is Raiders -1.5. I like the Raiders a little bit here. This is a nice bounce back spot for them coming off 2 losses and a nice fade spot of the Bears who had a big blowout win against Dallas last week. Of course, Dallas lost CeeDee Lamb and Tyler Booker, so they were not quite themselves. So Chicago just had an easy win, especially against the Dallas defense that allowed Russell Wilson to throw for 450, which is so ridiculous. So anyway, Chicago's defense doesn't get any pressure on the quarterback. They can't stop the run. I think this is going to be Ashton Genty's first big game of his NFL career. So while I'm not betting either side here, I am betting Ashton Genty over about, I think it's like 62.5 rushing yards. I forget what the exact number is, but I'm betting his over rushing total. The big game of the week, Ravens at the Chiefs. The loser goes to 1-3. It's kind of bizarre that one of these teams is going to go to 1-3, but that's the reality of the situation. I would like Baltimore from a betting perspective, but they are pretty banged up. We have Justin Matabuke, or Nnamdi Matabuke, as he's calling himself now for some reason. He is out once again. Kyle Van Noy, their do-it-all linebacker, he's out once again. So Baltimore's front seven is just ravaged by injuries. So they're tough to back. And then you have Ronnie Stanley, who barely practiced this week. So if he's out, and we don't know his status yet, if he's out, that's just a big problem for Baltimore. So I think in that situation, if Stanley were to be out, I think I'd swap to the Chiefs. Right now, I'm still sticking with Baltimore. I think that they're the better team right now, even with those two injuries. But Stanley being sidelined would make that a lot closer. I love this game from a betting perspective. Packers at the Cowboys. I think this is going to be an absolute demolition. The Packers are just so much better than Dallas, especially with CeeDee Lamb out, Cooper Beebe's out, Tyler Booker's out. Their offense is not nearly as good as it could be because they can't block. They can't run. They're not going to be able to run the ball here against Green Bay. And their passing attack just got really hurt by CeeDee Lamb's absence. I still think Jake Ferguson should do pretty well. Yeah, Pickens will have a good game here and there. But Dak Prescott's the quarterback who really needs everything to be right for him to live up to his, his billing. And when things have gone wrong, like if they have injuries and stuff like that, he's just really struggled. So it's a Packer defense that's made every offense look bad this year. I don't see Dallas scoring anything, and then we know how bad Dallas's defense is. I talked about it a few minutes ago. Dallas allowed Russell Wilson to throw for 450, and the week after, Caleb Williams had his best performance of his career. So what's Jordan Love going to do, especially with Matthew Golden coming on? There's Josh Jacobs, who's going to have a big game. And we know the Packers can score in Dallas. They did that in the playoffs a couple years ago. So I like Green. I love Green Bay. I think they're going to kill Dallas, and I would even take the -20.5 alt line if it's like 4-1 or something. All right, so we have two Monday night games brilliantly scheduled, 7:15, 8:15. People love when games are on top of each other like that, just because people just love clicking back and forth. It's just great situation here. We have Jets at the Dolphins. Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites. I don't like either side. I would like the Jets if I knew Justin Fields was 100%, but he's coming off a concussion, and I really like fading quarterbacks coming off concussions. They just tend to play poorly. However, you can't take Miami either because they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, and you can't back one of those teams as a 2.5-point favorite. So this is a stay away for me. I do like some props here, like, for example, you have Breece Hall over rushing yards. I think Devon Achane over catches. I think those are two good props in this game. So there's a lot to like from a props perspective, and I'll have prop picks posted on Monday afternoon. But as far as a betting aside here, I just don't like it. And then finally, we get to Bengals at Broncos. The line is Broncos -7.5. I love Denver here. As I kind of hinted at earlier, we're going to talk about how Denver has slow starts. So they started 1-2. But which is not uncommon for a Sean Payton team. Sean Payton teams, since he came back from Bountygate suspension, have been 3-20-1 against the spread in weeks 1 and 2. Like 3 wins, 20 losses, and 1 push. That is so awful. And yet that's the reality of the situation. People kind of forget that. Like Sean Payton teams start slowly, and people are like, oh, they suck, and then they don't bet on them, and then we get a good opportunity here. This line is just way off. I have this line at like 11.5. So definitely on the wrong side of 10, even at 7.5. You have to wonder what the Bengals are going to do in this game. Defensively, they're a disaster. And given that the Broncos are going to get going here, kind of like last year when they went into Tampa and won in a blowout, I think their offense is going to have this explosion that we haven't seen yet. And I think Bo Nix, who has struggled a bit so far this year, I think he'll rebound against this awful Cincinnati defense. J.K. Dobbins should have a big game as well. And then offensively for the Bengals, they can't block, and they're going up against Denver's defense, which has the most pressures in the NFL this year. Denver has, I think, 85 pressures this year. The league average is like 48. So through 3 games, I should say. So they get after the quarterback so much. Last week, Nick Bonito against Joe Alt just was a huge winner. And Joe Alt is a great left tackle. Bonito just took him, just kind of like humiliated his family line for years to come in that game. Bonito was great. And if the Chargers can block Bonito with Joe Alt, what are the Bengals going to do here? Jake Brownie's going to be under siege constantly, and anytime you get a backup quarterback against an elite defense. I mentioned it with Mariota, and Atlanta is not nearly as good as Denver's defense is. So Browning is going to have some turnovers in this game. He's going to struggle to move the ball, especially given that Jamar Chase is going to be smothered by Patrick Surtain too. So Denver should win easily. This is another team I'm going to bet the alt over on at -20.5 at about 4-1 odds. So those are my final thoughts on the Week 4 NFL picks. Let me know what you like the most this week, and let me know if you disagree with something or many things that I've said. Tell me where I'm wrong, because I'd love to hear it. So please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit walterfootball.com for tons of free content in the NFL every single day. And I'll talk to you in the next